Welcome to Stillspeakpod. This is an update on the Gabby Petito case. I don't have a whole lot for you. It was a slow weekend. I wasn't even going to make a video because there really wasn't much to discuss. Today, they were back in the Carlton Reserve again looking for Brian. They were using kind of like airboats, and they had a dog on the airboat, which, if you remember, just a few days ago, they had went to the laundry home, and the lawyer for the laundry, Stephen Bertolino, had said that they needed to get Brian sent for the dogs. So this could be the reason why they needed it for the dogs, because they were out back in Carlton Reserve. Now, they've been out there a lot of days, and they've scaled back quite a bit at this point. But even still, there's a reason for them to believe that he was either there at some point or is there for them to continue doing this search. I don't think that they're still out there based upon nothing. We also had dog supposedly still looking and following up on tips, but not a whole lot of information was given to us. Other than that, there was a man who called 911 claiming to have seen Brian, but it was weird. I honestly don't believe it. He basically claimed that he was like in a newer F-150 that was white. He was acting strange. He was talking about wanting to find his way to California and something about a girlfriend. They broken up and he needed to go see her. And so he called it in and he said that it was that he saw Brian Lowry. And okay, so maybe you don't follow the case that closely and you don't know his name. But here's the problem. He tells the 911 caller that he actually had pulled over afterwards to look up Brian, whoever was connected to the Gabby case, right, to see if it was the same guy. And after looking at it, he was like 99.999% sure it was him. But then he goes to call 911 after looking him up and doesn't even call him by the right name. So right there alone tells me, like, I don't know about this, because you just Googled him and you don't even know his name. Lowry and laundry, not the same, and everybody should know laundry. We all do it every single day. So, and besides the fact that Brian traveled through all these states and went up to Utah and then, up to Wyoming, and he knows how to get to California. And here's another thing. If you're on the run from the police, you're not going to go talking to random people. You're just not. I mean, it's probably happened before, but come on. It just doesn't seem like he would be like, oh, I need to get to California. Where do I go? I got to go see my girlfriend, and have a conversation with this man. That doesn't really add up. Maybe a hey, hi, or how you doing while passing somebody at a convenience store, but not a conversation enough to be like, oh, could you help me and give me directions? And then, of course, he said that he was in a pickup truck, a new one. Where's Brian getting the truck from? From who? It doesn't add up. And so many people want to, every time there's like some form of sighting, people want to believe it. And here's my issue. This particular area that this guy called into said that they also had gotten 10 other calls leading up to this call about sightings with Brian. And, I mean, you can say, well, see, other people saw him too. Or you can say this is an area that a lot of people have suspected he may have been, and people are calling it into the tip line. Or calling into 911 as a tip line. Like, hey, I know somebody who saw somebody out there, and they think it's Brian Laundrie. People on the internet, like I said this 100 times on here, they're crazy. I mean, the things that they do in cases are mind-blowing. And they do interfere with investigations like this. And so it was almost automatically discussed that Brian may have been on the Appalachian Trail because he had camped out or hiked it before, right? So that started being like a big talking point in groups. Like, he's probably there. So then all that takes is one person then calling that in and pretending to have seen him right, in that area to get police to search that area. Because a lot of the people on the internet that are discussing this case right now, they think they're doing more investigation than the FBI is actually doing. Now, in this particular case, there are some things that are questionable about what the FBI is and is not doing, but just because we're not hearing from the FBI or getting updates as frequently as we were before, does not mean that they're not doing things that we're thinking of. If we've thought about it or we've considered it as a possibility, they most likely have as well. Okay? So we shouldn't be taking that into our hands to make some sort of plot to get them to go out there and search an area and then make up a lie, because you're wasting time, right? And that time could be going towards actual evidence and where that leads them, and not just off a bunch of people on the internet calling it in. Now, I'm not saying that's the case. I don't know this man. He may have saw somebody. He may have looked like Brian. He may have thought it was him. Doesn't mean that it was him, okay? And I'm not saying that people are calling these 10 calls in to try to get, I don't know if that's what you're doing. I'm just saying people are crazy like that, and people have done crazier things in cases like calling in certain calls to 911 to get the investigators to search a specific area. So I really hate to always be the person to be like, sorry guys, I really don't believe this, but that's just who I am. So I don't believe it. Again, he may have seen somebody. I just don't think that he actually saw Brian. The thing is with Brian here is that, he's somebody who's familiar with traveling. He's somebody who's familiar with camping. And, he has done that trail before. So he does have experience. And you have to remember that, there's no arrest warrant currently that we know of involving murder, but there is a warrant out for him, and he does know he was a person of interest in the case, and that's why he fled, right? So all these sightings of him, right, all these people who think they see him, is a bunch of guys who definitely resemble him, right, in some ways, but all we can collect from that is that there's a lot of people who look like Brian Laundrie. But most of these pictures that we're seeing are all blurry, which I'm just sick of seeing blurry pictures. If you're going to take a picture, at least try to make it not blurry for us to get a good, glimpse of who you think is Brian. But on top of that, they're all pictures of guys with nothing covering their faces at all. And it starts from the day after we found out he was, quote unquote missing. We had that first picture of a guy walking somewhat near his home who resembled him, but he's just out there walking. No hat, no nothing, just completely exposed for everybody to see that it's him. So, that makes it hard to believe. Now, is he going to be disguised? I'm going with yeah. If you recall in the body cam footage, he talked about not wanting to be in the sun because of his bald head. And then he later joked with one of the officers saying, I don't, want to duck down and look like a weirdo to hide from the sun. And then he also even made a joke about wearing a sombrero. And he, pointed to the van to Gabby's hat that was on the dashboard. So this is a man who's not going to be out there with his head exposed, okay? He's just not. And he's also probably aware, because it came out rather quickly, of the body cam footage being released. And he's just not going to be just out there like himself. He's just not going to be out there like that. So most likely he's going to be wearing a hat of sorts, probably a mask. Especially if he's indoors somewhere or at a restaurant or what have you, possibly outside, because I see people outside with masks all the time even at the beach. Yeah, I've seen people at the beach with masks on, no lie. So yeah, he's gonna cover up, definitely gonna cover up, and it's kind of ironic that he even joked about using Gabby's hat to kind of hide himself from the sun. What I would say to people is, if you're really interested in seeing if you see Brian laundry, don't focus on the face, because again, he's going to have it covered. You're going to want to focus on the body, the size, the height, the way he walks, the way he moves his arms. You can get a really good idea of Brian from that body cam footage, including his voice. I mean, study and listen to his voice and how he's using his hands, how he stands. And then further, when you're sharing pictures of him to circulate his face, make sure you include his tattoos. And if you don't have a picture of it, at least describe it in your caption, because that's the biggest thing right there. Now, could he be wearing gloves? Yeah, because he could pretend to be a gardener or a landscape person. He could be in a store with gloves on, sure. He could be wearing gloves because of COVID. Again, that wouldn't be totally abnormal in our day and age right now. But most likely, he probably wouldn't be wearing gloves. You're going to want to cover your face, that's for sure. So, looking at the tattoos are going to be huge. Whether he pays for something in a convenience store, or if he eats in a restaurant of some kind and sits in the corner of the restaurant, at some point he's going to have to use his hands, whether to grab his drink or pay the waitress, etc. So that's going to be another big part of it. At the end of the day, though, he's not somebody who really stands out. He really does look like a lot of people his age. He's kind of got that image going on. I actually know several people his age that look like him. So it's going to be really hard for somebody in the public to spot him. You'd have to really know him, the story, and his mannerisms that you see in the body cam footage to really know if it's him. And of course, we're dealing with a situation here where we don't know if he's shaved, if he's grown his hair out or his beard out, and so it's making this even more complex. So that's that. And then this weekend, you had a lot of protesters out at the laundry home, and I've expressed that I'm not particularly a fan of this, and I know one of them who was out there is a YouTuber who I actually do like. She is, I wouldn't say I like her, but she's one of those, she's raw. She's a very upfront, blunt, raw type person, and she's the type of person who kind of has to grow on you. She's definitely a little wacky, a little out there, but I think she even recognizes that. So, I mean, I do like her. Okay, don't get me wrong. I do like her, but she is a little out there. She's definitely not everybody's cup of tea. She does speak a lot on cases and, has her personal opinions about those cases, and she does become very passionate about the cases. I do know that a lot of people were saying the same things about her as they did Dog, where they were like, oh, she just went out there for attention and clicks and likes and all that other stuff. But anyway, she was out there with the other protesters that were on the microphones screaming at the laundry house, and then she went to Cassie Laundry's home as well. And at one point, she even left a laundry basket outside the laundry home. And that, she got mixed reviews for that. Me, particularly, I felt it was very immature and not her best, okay? But, people are going to do what they want to do, so there's that. I don't like that the neighbors have to suffer. I know that some of the neighbors have given up their lawns to the media. I know that some of them are speaking to the people that come to protest, but not everybody in there is okay with what's happening. And these people are paying a mortgage. They get up and go to work every day to pay that mortgage, and they don't deserve that. They really and truly don't deserve that. And while I think it's fine to stand outside the home if you want to watch and see if they leave or if something happens, because it always seems to be this random showing up of the FBI, okay, fine. But the screaming and the yelling and all that, I just think it's too much. But today, somebody actually flew a banner by a plane over the home for about an hour or so, and it said, "Justice for Gabby, TikTok time's up." Now, clever, okay, cute. But the Laundries most likely did not see that unless they put the news on, because they were inside their home. And I feel like that money that was spent probably could have went to something a little bit better, like to the foundation that Gabby's family has just started to help other families. And I really don't think that banner was going to, even if they saw it, change their minds in any way to speak with the public in any way, shape, or form. And I said in my other videos, there's such this big assumption that these parents are not cooperating, and I just want to say it again, because somebody made this whole post today that said, to all the people who believe that, you know, the parents are innocent, and you explain to me why they're not cooperating. And I told this person, you know, that's where you lose me, because you don't know for a fact that they're not being cooperative. Again, to remind you, during the search warrant, you know, I think it was 2 weeks ago now. Was it last Monday? No, it was 2 weeks ago now. Oof. When that happened, the FBI was in their home for 8 hours, and we have no idea what was discussed. And just because the FBI has not confirmed or denied their cooperation does not mean that they are not cooperating. You don't know that. I don't know that. The FBI knows that. Okay? And I think, in my personal opinion, that it actually wouldn't even matter at this point if they spoke out, because no matter what they say, you and the public are going to tear them apart. They can come out and be as sincere and as transparent and honest as possible, and every single person would rip them to shreds. So I have a shout out to all those who think they're so guilty, and I want to say this. Hear me out. I've been seeing in groups since the very beginning people say, if my son did this, if my son came home without his girlfriend, blah, blah, blah. Like, they go into this whole thing of they know exactly what they would do in this situation, okay? Those people, and there's many of them, there's almost a majority said, if it was my son, I'd turn him in. If it was my son, I wouldn't help him. If it was my son, I wouldn't hire him or a lawyer. If it was my son, I wouldn't hide him. Right? To those people. You're the majority. You're the majority of people who say that you wouldn't. There's a few people who said that they would. Hear me out. If you say that you wouldn't do X, Y, Z, and the majority said that they wouldn't do X, Y, Z involving their son, why do you think that they would, when that would technically be the minority? Let me say it again. If you believe that you would do whatever involving your son and his missing girlfriend, and you're part of that majority of people who think they know what they would do in that situation, why do you think the Laundrie family is different and they're the minority? I'm just throwing it out there. I'm not like attacking you or anything. I'm just seriously curious why you think that they would have handled it differently than the majority would. Here's my thought, though. You don't know what you would do. You don't. You can think you do, but you don't. I don't know. I have no idea. I can say what I think I would do, but when it comes down to it and it actually happens, it's a whole other story. And I described this in another video. before you're a parent, you're like, when I have a kid, that kid's going to be perfect. They're never going to throw tantrums. They're going to sit in a restaurant with their hands folded. They're never going to make a mess. They're going to do this. They're going to do that. And then you have a kid. And you're like, oh, okay. Yeah, definitely ate all my words there. You just don't know. You don't know. It's like the people out there, the small amount of people who say, if I was in an abusive relationship, I would just leave. You don't know that, because the majority don't just leave. So really easy to speak on something you know nothing about than to actually live it. I don't know these parents' involvement in this. I don't know if they knew. I don't know if they helped. I don't know if they hid him, if they know where he is, or if this simply is a case that they too are a different form of victim of Brian's, and he lied and manipulated them just like he manipulated the officers in Moab, Utah. And at the point that he basically left them and abandoned them to deal with this crap on their own, they were like, all right, well, we got to throw him under the bus here and let the cops know he left. We don't know. We don't know. And the people outside this home are like so sure. They're so sure that this family knows, and they're out there screaming, you're not cooperating, you're not doing this, blah, 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 whatever they're screaming, that's waking up half the damn neighborhood. You don't know that. You don't know that. Ugh. Now, that being said, okay, the reason I decided to do a video about this tonight, because I already recorded 3 other videos prior to this, and it's now getting close to midnight, and I'd rather actually be in bed right now, is because not long after I recorded my other videos for other cases, I saw that Cassie Laundrie has broken her silence again after it was said that by the Laundrie's lawyer, Stephen Bertolino, that Cassie did see Brian on September 1st, and she saw him again at the campground at Fort DeSoto on September 6th. And in her interview on September 17th or 18th, I believe it was, she said that she had not spoken to her brother and that she wanted to speak to him. At this point, he was already gone, like missing, fled, vanished, disappeared. And I came to you a few days ago and I said, you know, she could have misunderstood the question. And that's what the lawyer was claiming, was that she misunderstood the question. And I said, that's believable. Well, one, because if you've ever given an interview, you know how nerve-wracking it is. And so, yeah, under this circumstance, being highly stressed out, etc., yeah, it's really easy to misunderstand the question. And I said, I think it was more like what she was trying to say was that she hadn't spoken to her brother since this all began, because the context was in this interview was what was going on. So if you think about it, prior to September 11th, you know, she didn't know Gabby was missing, right? Or at least that's her claim. So I think that's why she's saying, like, in the context of what's going on, like, the whole reason we're speaking right now, I haven't been able to talk to him about that. That's how I took it. But everybody was running around screaming, you know, Cassie's a liar, I can't tell you how many YouTube videos there are, like, her face with these big, bold cap letters of Cassie's a liar. And, of course, I needed to be different because, trust me, it's a struggle. I just was like, well, in the context of why she's even speaking to the media, it makes more sense that she meant she hasn't spoken to him about what happened with Gabby. Because at that point, Gabby wasn't found yet. She wasn't actually found deceased until like a day or two after her interview. So once this came out and everybody was kind of like, oh my God, she's a liar, just like her family, blah, blah, blah. Which we don't know if they're liars because they haven't even spoken, but whatever. everybody started to now go to her home as well. And as I said in another video, she has children. Going real life is really never okay, especially when somebody has small children, okay? It's dangerous. You're putting people at risk of their jobs, their safety, etc. Because even if you're not going to do something to them, just going out there and accusing her and attacking her and doing all these other things can actually causes ripple effects for other people to do that. And one of those people, okay, may be the crazy person who puts them at risk or in danger for some reason, which is not okay, right? And I'm not saying that you would be responsible for somebody else's actions, but we need to be a little bit more mindful, okay, of what we say, because that might egg somebody on to do something really stupid and dangerous. And she's got children, okay? And as a mom myself, that's scary. I have this whole public wanting for me to be hung now, and I have to worry about my kids' safety because of crazy people out there, which we have to protect our kids every single day of our lives. Now you add in the stress of this, right? But the good thing that came from them showing up at the home, so I guess you can say, well, good on them, sorta, is that Cassie and her husband finally decided to come out of the home. And I say finally, but it really was only a few days, so it didn't take her long. And she came out of the house to address what's going on here. And I'm going to play you parts of it. It's about 20 minutes long. It's cut up into pieces. And I'm going to pause to comment on some of it because she actually ends up confirming that Brian did go home to Florida August 17th. That was still kind of out there. We were going off Gabby's mom. Now we have Cassie to back it up. So now this becomes a fact. She did not, however, know how long he was there for in August. I'm not particularly fond that she got basically pushed into having to come out and address them. She basically said that she was doing it for her children. So, I mean, that's unfortunate. However, of course, I'm following the story, right? So I'm like, oh, cool, we have an interview now, right? So while I don't totally agree with how this was handled, I'm not going to not address this and talk about this because now we have this information and video with Cassie and her husband, and they both seem like really nice people. And I don't know. I think they're being truthful. So I'm going to play parts, like I said, and I'll pause at certain parts to kind of just throw my 2 cents in here and there. It starts with them coming out of the home, and immediately the people who are outside go at them, and Cassie kind of puts her hand up to be like, calm down, we're coming out to talk to you. Why are you screaming at her? At least she's coming out speaking to you, for goodness sake. Oh, Lord, here we go.
We have fully cooperated with the police since September 11th when they called. I did not say that I saw my brother. I said I haven't been able to speak to him in reference to the time when I was called by the police. Since that point, I haven't been able to speak to my brother.
So, right off the bat, she confirms what I thought, which was that she hadn't spoken to him since September 11th, because prior to that, she didn't even know Gabby was missing. So this makes more sense. So this is her answer. I believe her, because I already thought that that's probably what she meant.
I've been
what happened? Yeah. The thing about it is we know Gabby's family. Gabby is...
We do too.
What do you want us to do?
We cooperate with the police. We're not supposed to...
That's actually kind of funny. He's like, we know Gabby's family, and she puts her hand on her chest like, we do too. Like, duh, hello, this girl was dating my brother. Of course I know her family. You don't, she was kind of like doing this face like, you don't think we know that we all want these answers?
I'm supposed to talk to anybody, and you're making my children cry.
Was Brian with you on September 1st? Did he come to this house?
Yes, he came to this house with my parents in their Mustang, not the van. I did not know that he took that van back. I found out the next day with everybody else.
So she confirms Brian did come by her home on September 1st with his parents, but it was in the Mustang. She didn't even know that he had come back with that van, and she found out that he came back with that van when we all found out. Now imagine how that would feel if she's being truthful, and I think she's being truthful, that you found out with the public that your brother came back with the van and not Gabby. That must have been just unbelievable for her.
We are just as upset, frustrated, and heartbroken as everybody else. And I am losing my parents and my brother and my children's aunt and my future sister-in-law on top of this. And you're not helping.
Why your parents? Why your parents? You're talking about Christmas.
They're not talking to us either.
Why aren't they talking to you guys?
If I knew...
Her husband kind of, when he asked that, throws his hands up. And when he asked, like, why aren't your parents speaking to you? He threw his hands up, and she's like, if I knew. So now we're learning that the parents are not speaking with Cassie, their own daughter. So now there could be a number of reasons for that. It could be because they are hiding something and they don't want to slip up to her. It could be because they're trying to protect her and the grandkids, and they've chosen to basically cut her off so that she's not dragged into this. Unfortunately, she still is dragged into this regardless. It could be because their lawyer advised them not to. It could be because, who knows, maybe Cassie's blowing up their phones too, screaming and yelling at them, and they're like, we're not going to call her back. She's freaking the hell out, right? Which, if she is, she has every right to be freaking out. So they're saying they're not even speaking to them.
I would say, I don't know.
Do you think they're involved, your parents?
I don't know.
You don't know?
We know.
You're not involved?
So now they said, I don't know, to whether or not the parents are involved. Well, somebody pointed out, well, they didn't say a direct no. Well, they would need evidence to know that they're not, to say no. I think just saying I don't know is a way to basically say, like, we don't know because we didn't even speak to them. Like, we have no idea what's going on. We're just like you guys. Like, we've been left in the dark.
We have literally been finding everything out with the news like everybody else. My kids are upset. You're upsetting my neighbors, and all we want to do is let you guys know that we don't know.
What happened? What did you guys do on the 6th through the 8th at Fort DeSoto?
We were at Fort DeSoto on the 6th. We got there at around 2 o'clock, and we left around 8 because the kids had school the next day.
On the 6th?
On the 6th. We only stayed for about 6 hours.
Who was there?
My mom, my dad, my brother.
Would you guys be willing to go on record to say that you would like your brother Brian Laundrie to turn himself over to the authorities?
What was going on at Fort DeSoto?
It's hard to hear, but when they said, would you make a plea to your brother to turn himself in? Like, would you advise him to? And Cassie kind of throws her hands up and said, of course.
Fire?
We had s'mores, we had dinner.
What did Brian say anything about Gabby?
We had our kids there. Nothing came up.
He didn't say anything about Gabby?
No, we've told the FBI everything.
Did Brian go...
The world does not need to know what the FBI knows. And that's why we're silent.
They've asked us to not say anything, really.
This is me coming out against them.
They're suffering. Big
We're
time.
suffering.
Well,
they're suffering.
To be fair,
I understand your view.
I mean, to be fair, they lost
100%.
life. So
I know.
I feel bad for you, but again, I don't feel bad for you.
I know. That's fine. You feel how you feel. We help how we feel. My kids are upset. You're upsetting my children, who are very upset that they had to find out that their aunt died from you people screaming at them from the house. So that's not...
Where was that at?
On Saturday when you were here.
Your aunt died?
No, their aunt.
Their aunt died?
Yes.
The future aunt.
They considered her aunt. Aunt Gabby forever. So
To be honest with you.
So basically they're saying that the kids found out about Gabby, being deceased from the protesters. She later talks about how they were waiting for this to all be resolved to basically share that with the kids. But unfortunately, they now know, which is awful that they had to find out that way. And she refers to, Gabby as their aunt, that they saw her as their aunt and that she saw, her as her sister-in-law. They technically weren't married, but that's how she became known to them. and what have you.
We can.
I mean,
So where else have you seen Brian since September 1st?
I have not seen anybody after 8 o'clock on September 6th. I have not spoken to my parents.
How long did they stay there, do you know? Like at the Fort DeSoto Garden? Did Brian go off on his own into the woods or anything?
We don't
what we've
know.
been told, we know as much as you.
Did you? So when he came here September 1st, right? You said he came. What did he come here for?
My parents wanted to surprise the kids to pick them up at school. I did not know that Brian was with them when we had previously planned to hang out with them. This is not what we want to be doing. This is not how we want the world to find out when we're angry and upset. But I can't have my kids be crying for 3 days in a row.
What did the FBI take out of the house here? Like what?
Nothing.
They came here though.
Yes.
During
We met with them multiple times.
you met with them multiple times. Did they ask you for like polygraphs or anything like that?
No, but
No.
we don't know.
We're not involved in this at all.
He's my brother, and that's it.
The parents. We've been outside the parents' home for 2 weeks straight.
I know. I've been
There's
watching.
parents' home for 2 weeks.
So it's interesting because he says we've been outside the parents' home for 2 weeks straight, and she's like, yeah, I know, I've been watching. So that's kind of interesting little tidbit there, right? She's kind of watching this while we're all watching this. Kind of like an outsider.
They feel your family's involved. A cloud of suspicion. The reason why we're here for you is because the media
ended up misconstruing what I said when they asked me if I had seen my brother. Like I said in the beginning, they didn't say, have you seen Brian? It was, what's the weirdest thing about this all? It was, I haven't been able to speak to my brother. I tried to contact him after this. I tried to contact my family after this. I hadn't been able to speak to my brother.
You know
That's
about
it.
any additional burner phones?
I have no idea.
So you don't know nothing.
No,
Like
he's
after.
my brother that I don't talk to that much.
And the parents ain't talking to you. Your own parents are not talking to you for what reason? They just
The lawyer said no.
who's lawyer?
My parents' lawyer.
Their
We don't
lawyers.
have a lawyer. We have nothing to hide. We were told not to talk to anybody, and I'm upset that we have to come out and do this and then explain myself to the FBI.
So when Gabby.
So here she says that her parents are not speaking with her because of the lawyer. The lawyer said not to. So going back to what I said earlier, this is her claim.
Saying the parents weren't even looking for her. They weren't even out looking for her.
We don't even know what they do. We can
Do you
assume.
know that she was missing when they went to Fort DeSoto?
No.
You didn't have no
September
clue that
11th,
she was
the
missing?
detective that was working with Gabby's mom called me up while we were on vacation,
We were in Orlando.
and then I called her back because we were eating dinner, and I told her everything she needed to know. We told them from day one that we were at Fort DeSoto with them on the 6th, and that they came over here on the 1st. The police has known everything that's out there the whole time, from September 11th night on. That's when I became involved, and I knew nothing before that.
Another
So
question?
what were your thoughts after you found out she was missing and your brother was here by himself and in her van and ran up $1,000 on her
These
credit
are
card?
things we're not allowed to answer.
Have you ever seen Brian hit Gabby?
No.
Have you ever seen him fight?
No.
Have you ever seen him hit any woman?
No, I've never seen him be
Domestic
abusive or
violence,
angry
right?
in anything. No.
You know
No.
that we talked to neighbors. We canvassed your parents' neighborhood.
Yeah.
They've heard screams coming out of your parents' house on multiple
Your
occasions.
parents' house.
Okay,
Screams.
I don't know what to tell you about
Might have been
that.
our kids. We lived there for a year.
Oh, you lived at the home in Wabasso?
Yeah,
Gabby and Brian lived with us.
when they were in New York.
And you've never seen him fight? No argue? No.
Of course, we
But
figure,
nothing.
everybody figures, but nothing like what any, like, no
Nothing that
domestic
would
anything.
constitute domestic violence.
No,
No.
yes, or else we would have done something about it.
Right.
Like, I don't stand for that. I was in a bad relationship similar to that, what's saying has happened. I wouldn't let that happen. We're,
Not evil monsters were made out to be.
A lot of people just want answers. There's a cloud of suspicion. Nobody came to your house, I'm sure, to after it came out in the media, they said, oh, you lied. They said that you misled
I've been
the...
accused of lying.
Saying
But
that you didn't
it's
see
not
him.
right. I didn't say that I didn't see him. I said I didn't speak to him after that question was, like, what was the weirdest thing that I haven't been able to talk to my brother? As in, from the 11th forward, I have not been able
So
to
then the
talk to
media
my
is
brother.
spawning around.
Yes.
If you read the transcript, it's right
The
there.
transcripts are out there of everything that was.
So yeah, I mean, the media does things like that. I know of another story where somebody who was the mother of someone who killed somebody, gave an interview, and the media cut out half of what she said and only aired as a preview part of what she said. And by that time, it was too late. Everybody saw that one clip. So when later on it came out with the full clip, everybody was like, but at that point, everybody disliked this person for no reason. Because the full clip gave you context on what she was asked and what she fully said, not just this one little piece. So this is totally believable. We also learn in this that it sounds like when her parents were still living in Long Island, her and her husband and the kids lived in that home. And when Gabby and Brian moved down from Long Island, they lived with them in that home while they were getting on their feet. They say this later again in this interview, which is really interesting. So let's continue.
Camp around here, besides Fort DeSoto.
Sure, she's giving everything. When you guys were children, obviously your whole family's outdoorsy. So when you guys were children, you know, like every summer I went to a place. Where was your summer vacations at normally?
We didn't have that. We grew up on a great street where our summer vacation was hanging out with our friends.
Yeah.
So,
we have to. We are here for the Petito family. They are suffering bravely. Things that you will never even feel.
Hope not.
And it's just right now. You know, having your family destroyed, and then the people that you trusted your family member with is ignoring you and hanging up the telephone on you.
I understand. I'm in the boat where I'm getting ignored by my family and thrown under the bus by my family's attorney.
Why would he do that? Like, why?
So there she says that the attorney has thrown her under the bus and that she understands because her family's not speaking to her either or taking her calls just like they did to the Petito and Schmidt family. And she also, when they're yelling, saying, you know, they're going through this horrible time, blah, 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 you know, it's something that you'll never understand. The husband says very softly, you don't hear it, but he said, I hope we never do.
Protect his client because she's not their client.
So I'm just as mad.
Did they have a storage shed, Gabby, and
They have a storage locker.
Brian, do you know where it was?
I have no idea.
Do you know what date your brother flew back, that your dad paid for the plane?
I didn't even know he paid for the plane.
Did he fly back?
Yeah,
from,
he flew back.
Like around, like, what, the 17th or something?
Put it into their house.
Around, like, the 17th or something?
Yeah.
After the flight?
He got here on the 17th. I don't know what day he left.
Did you see him?
They say your dad bought the plane ticket, which I don't know where they got that from. I think they're just guessing because I haven't seen that anywhere. And the husband says, we didn't know he paid for the plane ticket. So this is where she confirms that he did go home August 17th, but she doesn't know how long he was there for. She does say he didn't have a storage unit. He had a storage locker.
See him on that trip?
Yes.
What was discussed? Anything? Was he discussed about?
They were talking, or he was telling me where they were going next. I FaceTimed with Gabby and the kids on that trip. I didn't.
Did he say he got in a fight with Gabby? He didn't talk about that incident?
Just was surprised to us.
Yeah. We're unfortunately in the dark as much as everybody else.
So that's really interesting because
Bravely.
the 17th was 5 days after the incident in Moab, Utah. And Brian, according to her, did not share with them that happened. And it was only 5 days prior. So that's interesting.
You will never even feel.
Hope not.
And it's just
Sorry,
right now.
I rewound it.
On that trip?
Yes.
What was discussed? Anything? Was he discussed about?
They were talking, or he was telling me where they were going next. I FaceTimed with Gabby and the kids on that trip. I didn't.
Did he say he got in a fight with Gabby? He didn't talk about that incident?
Just was surprised to us.
Yeah. We're unfortunately in the dark as much as everybody else. And
What was your brother like when he was in middle school and a teenager? What was he
I
like?
didn't live in the house at the time.
Has he ever been violent with you?
No.
Never
violent with anybody?
Brother. I mean, me and my sister went at it. She pulled my hair, hit me in my eye.
We're 8 or 9 years apart. We're not.
Yeah, you're older.
He's not like my. We were little together, brother. I mean, I was.
But you guys lived in the house at Wabasso. Everybody lived there.
No, my parents lived in New York.
Oh, they lived in New York. You lived in there.
We were remodeling the house.
And then Brian and Gabby came there.
When they moved down to Florida, they moved in with us to get on their feet.
How did they
My
meet?
job.
High school.
High school.
That's,
Well,
I feel like I'm answering too many things.
Yeah, I understand, and I appreciate and respect. Out of respect, we're gonna leave. We're gonna leave out of respect. We're gonna leave.
We appreciate.
I don't think we're gonna be back.
Because
And I'm sorry.
This is what we wanted right here.
No,
This
I
is
know.
what we wanted, and this.
We were told not to come out, but I can't have my kids crying.
Well, the fact that you came out, we're not coming back.
Yeah, we're not.
I mean, unless you're lying or there's something new or something, we're not coming back. God bless you guys.
No, us too.
We just want justice for her.
We're upset. We're sad.
And you see, we're rational people. We just want answers. We want just closure for Gabby.
I would, if I were you, change your strategy because
We don't have a strategy.
Where our summer vacation was hanging out with our friends. So.
It's a tough situation, and I'm hearing you, and I appreciate you guys coming out and talking. We do respect that, and that's why.
Trying to save our neighbors.
And this, again, if no one, I don't think anyone would have ever came to your house until the media came out and said, "Well,
The
she."
media said that, and my parents' lawyer really screwed me over by saying that he just.
Well, I saw the comment that
He
he
did
made.
not just stop by on the way home, and I was livid, and I'm not speaking to anybody.
Yeah,
I'm
no.
done. Because that put me in danger. That made my kids find out this horrible way with questions. We were waiting until there was some kind of closure, so the kids were just sad. Instead of sad, worried, and now really scared of you guys.
Well, based off all the stuff on the internet, do you think Brian killed Gabby?
I don't know.
Sorry, I actually rewound it too much before. That's why you heard the same thing again. And I also wanted to say that this is one video, but somebody had taken 4 different videos and combined them into one. So there's a part where you'll hear the same thing twice because it sounds like at some point the video got, edited wrong. So
The internet is the internet.
Understand. If you had anything to say to Gabby's family, what would you say?
We've already reached out through the FBI to them, so.
Yeah, if you already speak.
Yeah.
I mean, I know the family personally, and I can share this. What do you have to say to Gabby's family?
I don't have anything to say right now because the police is told us specifically not to talk to anybody or anything.
And she's going outside of that talking to you.
Yeah.
So, you have to respect
Yeah, I'm pretty sure we're going to do it.
As long as you didn't say anything that you tell them.
They know everything.
No, they know everything. 100% honesty. September 11th night forward, we've been cooperative. They
It's
come
just
over,
frustrating
we've met
because
them.
the family's upset because they're not getting the belongings from Gabby that are in your parents' home.
We have no idea what they have.
They won't give
Yeah,
them.
I don't know.
The parents have hung up the phone on them. I mean, it's just frustrating,
I'd also like to say that not to upset Mr. Petito any further, but I did not get any phone calls from him in the days prior to this September 11th. September 11th, I checked my phone records. I don't see any. He maybe had the wrong number for me. So I was not ignoring his phone calls. I
Right.
didn't get them.
Our first one was from the...
And that could have
Suffolk
happened.
County
You could
Yeah.
have the wrong phone number. It's very easy. So,
We called them right back.
it does.
now she's saying that because Joe Petito said on Dr. Phil that he had even contacted Cassie when they were trying to figure out where Gabby was, and that even she did not answer or return the phone calls. So she's basically saying, I'm not trying to upset him, but I want to set the record straight. I didn't get any calls from him, and he may have had the wrong number, which is plausible, of course.
It doesn't,
It's just sad. It's just a sad situation. It's just sad. I don't know what to think, but I appreciate you guys coming out,
Yeah,
and I do appreciate coming out. I don't know what to think. Yeah, to us, the silence was like a form of guilt. You understand?
Oh, yes,
Like-
I understand. But for us, silence was not guilt. Silence was
Well,
the
nobody
FBI
came here
telling us
until
not
the
to.
lie
Yes,
was the truth.
I know.
And,
And
Plenty of people here, but...
Oh, they have come by. Yeah.
Yeah.
But there's just people upset. They just want answers. They want Brian because he's on the loose.
trust me, I understand.
Whether he's dead or alive, he's out there.
Because one, done.
Sooner he is found, the sooner this is over for us.
Yes.
We can start.
So her husband says, like, as soon as he, trust me, like, the quicker he's found, the easier it is for us and all this ends, right? So, like, in their eyes, they want him caught so that they can go back to their normal lives, which is an understandable feeling.
Is that if they can just come out and just start cooperating,
Making a statement.
I know. We will go away. I mean, we have to. We are here.
Bless you guys.
For her.
No, us too.
We just want justice for her.
We're upset. We're sad.
And you see, we're rational people. We just want answers. We want just closure for Gabby.
If I were you, change your strategy because.
We don't have a
Yeah, they don't even have a lawyer.
Gabby deserves better, and maybe help pressure your parents into doing the right thing. Because I'm telling you, Gabby's family's suffering gravely, and your parents know more than they're letting on. And it sounds like they deceived you, which is not good for any parent. And I'm just hoping that maybe some pressure from the family might help them cooperate with law enforcement so we can put an end to this. Like, I got better things to do. I'm burnt up. I've got chapped lips.
We've been out there.
Like
You have a beautiful neighborhood. We've been outside your parents' home for 2 weeks. We just want answers. We want them to come forward and share everything they know. But they refuse to, they just stay silent. They're in their home. Yesterday they went out gardening in their back of their house, Brian's on the loose. They haven't given any public statement saying, hey, Brian, turn yourself in,
Help me find my son, or, like,
they're outside gardening.
They're outside gardening. Baffled and blown away. It's like, going about our lives. Like, nothing happened.
Do you think, have you heard about September 14th where Brian allegedly bought a burner phone at the 18th? Do you think his mom was with him? You think your mother? Because they said
what the news says. I don't know what.
Brian didn't like a cell phone to begin with.
He didn't like cell phones. Is he?
The husband says that Brian doesn't really like cell phones, which is interesting because if you go back to the body cam footage when Brian was offered water, he mentioned that he doesn't like the plastic, and you can assume that that's because he doesn't like, pollution and stuff like that. And oftentimes some people don't like the cell phones because it's like got the Wi-Fi, and some people are, scared of the Wi-Fi and what have you. So that could be partly it. It can also be that some people just don't like cell phones, or they have a cell phone only for phone calls, but they don't use it for anything else. Like, my husband is not a social media person. He does not use his phone for any form of social media. So, it's interesting that he said that. And it's kind of funny because everybody thinks like he's out there with a phone somewhere, and he's like, Brian don't even really like cell phones.
Is he like an outdoorsman? What is he like? What's his hobbies? Like, does he do camping, outdoors? And do you think he could survive out in the woods for a month?
I think anybody could survive out in the woods for a month if you grab a book and go out there and try.
I don't know if I asked before, but do you think he's alive?
We hope so.
You hope so.
Yeah.
See,
I hope so.
I think people want him held accountable, but no harm done to him.
Yeah, of course.
We don't want harm done to him. We just want him held accountable for his actions.
We would like to give his nephews an answer to when they can see their grandparents again. When, see their uncle or uncle or anything. He was their hero, so.
I'm sorry for your gut.
And that's really sad. So basically the husband said, we want to be able to give his nephews an answer. We want them to be able to see their grandparents, or at least, see and talk to Brian. And again, that's really sad. I'm a mom. I have 3 kids. I have a brother. And if this was my brother, that would be my biggest thing is how am I going to explain this to my kids? And being worried about how this is affecting them. And I almost felt like this husband was basically to Brian. We want to give your nephews an explanation. So they're saying they hope he's out there and they hope he's alive. They weren't really concrete on saying if they think he's alive or dead, but they're hoping that he's found alive.
Your guys' pain. I'm sorry for you guys' pain. I really am.
I'm very sorry, yeah.
Sorry, guys. You guys have a good day. God bless you. I hope everything turns out. Keep praying. This all ends, and then everyone can move on and just move forward from here.
We need to find your brother so we can start
100%. I don't
start the healing process for the Petito.
And again, we don't condone any violence on your parents.
Nope.
We've been out there, but we haven't.
Protesting against violence.
We've been out there, but we haven't went on their property. We don't want anyone doing any damage to their house. We don't want anybody to storm their house. We just want answers. We want them to come forward. Hopefully they'll do that. Hopefully, I'll be honest. I prayed. I've been praying for the last couple of days, saying I hope they repent and do what's right. Just like I prayed for you guys. I prayed that I'd be able to speak to you guys, or you guys would come out and give answers. I prayed for that the last couple of days. I said, and this might happen, and it did. God bless you guys, and let's just hope this gets resolved quickly, because the longer he's out, it's a danger.
I agree. I just wanted to make sure you guys understood that this is my kids.
Thank you, and we are leaving. We are leaving, and we're not coming back. I'm not coming back.
Thank you, Cassie.
Thank you, Cassie, for your time.
We appreciate
you. Have a good day.
Right thing. Yep. Thank you.
So I will say this actually went really well. When they first came out of the home, they immediately went to go at them, and then she kind of put her hand up like, chill. And then the male, you hear him saying, shh, 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 like, stop, right? Because you don't want to go at somebody aggressive, because they're not going to want to talk to you. And it was a pretty decent conversation, and we got a lot of information from her. They sounded, and their body language, like they're telling the truth, in my opinion. And they seem like sweet people who are really in the dark and are just as confused and, don't know anything like us. I will say that the fact that they were nice to Cassie and her husband. I don't know the husband's name. Even if I did, I don't want to say it. Even though... Lost my train of thought there. What I was going to say was, I think it's great that they were respectful, that they calmed down, they allowed them to speak, they heard them out, they asked what they could ask, and then they were like, you know what, just because you came out here to speak to us, we're going to respect you and your children, and we're not going to come back here. So, kudos to them for that. Most people would not do that. That was very respectful. Let's hope they keep up their word and not go back there, since Cassie and her husband were willing to come out and speak to them. Let's not put them in a situation where they end up saying things they're not supposed to be saying, not for themselves, but because they were told not to. We have to remember, if you want justice for Gabby, you have to allow the investigation to unfold and take place. If we jeopardize that, you're jeopardizing justice for Gabby. So, while we want this information, while we want to hear them speak, we want them to answer our 16 million thousand questions, there's a reason why they're told not to share that information. So, let's just remain patient, take what we can get, but not be pushy. So they handled this very well. And although I'm not a fan of the fact that they were out there to begin with, I do like how they handled it. So that's that. So until next time, I'll see you soon.